October 27, 2020 City Council meeting, and I'll have Claudia do a roll call.
Councilor Drapkin.
Here.
Councilor Garvin.
Here.
Councilor Geary.
Good to see everyone.
Councilor Stassens.
Here.
Councilor Peralta. He's on there?
He's on there.
Yeah. Council President Minke
Here.
and Mayor Hill.
And I'm here. Again, we welcome everyone. Thank you, Claudia, for that roll call. This evening, we've got some proclamations in a ceremony. Our first item this evening is a Meritorious Service Award. So I'll call on Chief Police Matt Scales to introduce this topic to us. Chief?
Hey, Mayor Harold, hopefully you guys can hear me. Is that correct?
We can.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to invite Justin James, Officer Justin James, and Corporal Brett Rudolph up to the table with me, and we'll stand. So tonight is a special occasion. To the officers are being awarded the Meritorious Service Award. This is something that doesn't happen very often. When it does happen, we want to celebrate in front of the council, allow you to hear some of the accomplishments they have completed over the last 4 years in this particular situation. In the audience, there's members of the PD are here. I believe families also here. And it's just a time to share and then recognize some of the really exceptional work they did. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to take the opportunity to individually recognize the officers. So, and I'm going to read the award aloud if you'll allow me. Okay.
Go ahead, Chief.
Okay. This Meritorious Service Award is being presented to Officer Brett Rudolph, now Corporal Rudolph, in recognition of his distinguished service during his tenure as a detective with the McMinnville Police Department. During his tenure as detective, Brett handled over 75 cases related to child sex abuse, physical abuse, and or child exploitation. In addition to these sometimes complex child crimes, Brett also was the primary criminal investigator on 3 drug-related overdose deaths, commonly referred to as Len bias cases, all of which are currently under review by the District Attorney's Office for possible criminal charges. Among other notable investigations, Brett was the co-lead investigator of a complex MCRT, that's a major crimes team, officer-involved shooting case involving the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office, as well as the lead investigator on an attempted murder investigation and an attempted robbery investigation. Throughout his 4 years as detective, Brett was praised for his willingness to step in and help out when called upon by either our agency or an outside agency, and he was praised for his collaborative efforts. He willingly took on the role of becoming a medical legal death investigator and has participated in numerous MDI investigations as the lead investigator and has shadowed medical legal death investigators who were in training. In addition to his ongoing caseload, Brett has also become a defensive tactics instructor and quickly assumed the role as department instructor for this discipline, and he has been instrumental in bringing new training methods to our agency. Brett was a steady and integral part in the overall success of the detective section. He has always done what's asked of him and has noted positively impacted the lives of many victims, most of which were children. It's with great pride that I honor Brett Rudolph with the Meritorious Service Award. So Brett. Here, I'll give this to you.
How we wish we could be there together and be able to shake hands and be a part of this outside of Zoom. We'll have to do something a little later.
Thank you. Here's yours.
I can personally attest to Corporal Rudolph's ability to oversee the training exercises and with great aplomb can manage those that faint during those training exercises. So my special gratitude to you.
Thank you.
First-hand experience, right, Zach?
Yes. I wish
My heart's just beating fast just thinking about that. Woo.
We'll let you know when we have it set up again.
Yeah.
No thanks.
The next officer is Justin James. So Justin, you step forward. Justin was absolutely a 10. They both were, but Justin James, the meritorious service is being presented to Officer Justin James in recognition of his distinguished service during his tenure as a detective with the McMinnville PD. Throughout his 4 years as detective, Justin was praised for his work with not only victims he protected, but also many partner agencies such as Juliet's House, YCSO, and Newburgh-Dundee PD. They all purposely and positively commented about his attention to detail and his work ethic towards his cases. During his tenure as detective, Justin handled over 100 cases related to child sex abuse, physical abuse, and/or child exploitation. That equates to an average of about one new child abuse case every 2 weeks, continually for 4 years. A significant portion of those cases involved a common adult perpetrator preying on and attempting to exploit numerous teenage girls. Justin identified additional victims and supported them all throughout the eventual conviction of the perpetrator. In addition to these child-related cases, Justin was involved in some of the most noteworthy detective section cases during his 4 years of service as a detective. He was a lead investigator on a complex homicide investigation that spanned more than 3 years before it was resolved. He was also a co-lead investigator on an overall investigation that combined several separate patrol cases, all of which involved a common male perpetrator that was preying on vulnerable adult females. Justin again identified additional victims and supported them all throughout the eventual conviction of the perpetrator. Justin was a steady and integral part of the overall success of the detective section. He has always done what was asked of him and, as noted, positively impacted the lives of many victims, most of which were children. It is with great pride and honor that I present Justin with the Meritorious Service Award. So congratulations. Mayor and Council, I just want to, again, the group of detectives that I mentioned, I know Sergeant Fessel's here, he's the one that nominated both the detectives up through the chain, and I want to tell you how hard they worked. They worked in some of the most incredibly difficult cases, but, and they most worked through some challenging times when the detective section was short. As we've discussed previously. I just want to reiterate the work that goes on behind the scenes outside of the black and white cars that you see tremendously impacts our community, and the fine work that these gentlemen did during their 4 years is a great representation of the day in, day out work that our detectives do for our community. So thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present this to them.
Thank you, Steve. These are the fun times of recognizing people for performance and just hard work. And I know there's probably many more in our group, but again, it's great to take the opportunity to recognize individuals. With that, our next ceremony or award is something I have in front of me, and I'll just put it right here. As you know, on an annual basis at the LOC conference, one aspect of the LOC conference is working with the League of Oregon Cities and CIS, and we present the safety awards to every city throughout the state of Oregon. And those are fun award ceremonies to go to. And McMinnville has always been in the top group. And that's the case this year. Although the LOC conference was a conference that was done through Zoom and through a platform, we didn't have an opportunity to be recognized as we typically would. They have sent to us our award, and we have what is called the Silver Safety Award that's being presented to the city of McMinnville. And this is an injury frequency rate of 0.6, not even 1%, in the fiscal year 2019-2020. And this is in conjunction with McMinnville Water and Light. We have 317 full-time employees, and that's a phenomenal rate of being able to be safe and secure in the things that we do. And so I'd recognize department heads. I would recognize our management team for this high honor that we have been given, has been given to us this year again. And so thank you everyone for that. Now our next thing would be a proclamation. And this is a proclamation that I will read. Whereas McMinnville, Oregon is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal efforts, volunteerism, and service. And whereas McMinnville, Oregon is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas McMinnville, Oregon is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within the community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas McMinnville acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 500 extra mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on the 1st of November, 2020. Now, therefore, I, Scott A. Hill, Mayor of the City of McMinnville, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2020 to be Extra Mile Day. I encourage each individual in the community to take time on this day not only to go the extra mile in his or her own life, but also to acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitments to make their organizations, families, communities, country, the world a better place. In witness thereof, I heretofore set my hand to cause the official seal of McMinnville to be affixed this, the 27th day of October, 2020. Signed, Scott A. Hill, Mayor of McMinnville. Again, I look at so many that are on this call, and thank you for your volunteerism. I share this quite often. We're about 240 full-time employees, but we're over 1,100 volunteers in this city. And I'd like to say it starts with our softball, our baseball, our soccer coaches, which are our moms and dads out supporting their kids and just for the love of the game. And it goes all the way to those that are sitting around tonight on the city council and as mayor. We're all volunteers. And so again, thank you. I'll clap for you guys. Thank you. Okay. That takes us to comments from citizens. And so this is the point in the evening where anyone that may speak on a topic other than a matter that is in litigation, a quasi-judicial land use matter, or a matter scheduled for public hearing at some future date. If you would like to speak to the council, if you're in the council chambers, just let Claudia know. If you would like to speak through Zoom, please let Claudia know through the chat function, and we will allow you 3 minutes to any person to share comments to the council for a total of 30 minutes. Again, if you are on Zoom, please state your name and your address for the record. So I'll turn it over to Claudia. Do we have anyone that would like to address the council this evening?
Yes, we'll start with Tynan Pierce, who's on Zoom.
Thank you. Tynan, welcome.
Hi, Can you all hear me?
We can.
All right, great. Awesome. Thanks for the time tonight. Appreciate it. So this is going to be in regards to Whitebird Clinic and Cahoots. So in the Kiwanis Forum with Adam that I had the opportunity to, exchange ideas with, one of the things I brought up in response to the mental health question was the success that Whitebird Clinic has had down in Eugene area with being a non-police alternative to assisting the community with dealing with mental health crises. Many of you probably are already familiar with this organization. Adam mentioned that we might not be able to succeed with that sort of program here because of its grant funding. So I've been doing a little more research on how that program is actually funded, and I've been in communication with their director of consulting, Tim Black. And so for the last fiscal year, Cahoots had a total operating budget of $2.4 million. The city of Eugene, as a budget item, did $800,000 of that, and then the city of Springfield also did $210,000 of that. Lane County Health and Human Services did $630,000 of that. Medicaid wraparound service fundings did $100,000 of that, and then they also did some foundations and fundraising for $300,000. So again, I don't have all the information as to whether or not we as a city, because of our population, do not qualify for the certain grants that Tim is referencing, but I would just encourage a lot of creativity around this concept to really bring some sort of model similar to this as a non-police alternative to assisting our mental health crises that we're seeing within most cities across the country. Additionally, this has been such a successful program that Representatives Bonamici, DeFazio, and Senator Wyden, as some of you might know, Senator Wyden introduced the Cahoots Act into the Senate because it's so successful, and they're looking to add a 95% matching with Medicaid, and then potentially also some $25 million worth of state grants that could be donated out. So it's something that if we could get ahead on this and really get some planning in place, there's potentially funding streams that we could have access to. And as of now, the city of Eugene specifically does pay directly through a contract with the EPD, the Eugene Police Department, about $800,000. So they are committing to it fiscally as a budget item. And so I would encourage us to do the same. I mean, personally, I have my own views on that being completely separate than the police budget. That's what I would prefer to see. But just collectively as a group to just be really creative about solutions to this as opposed to just relying on the nonprofit and private business sector. So that's pretty much the keys on that. I'm going to send y'all an email with some of the breakdowns that I've had from Tim and see what y'all think. And hopefully we can have some healthy dialogue around kind of some creative opportunities for this.
Thank you for those words. Claudia, do we have anyone else that would like to address us this evening?
Yes, next we have Brittany Reese on Zoom.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Fantastic. I have been running around with my kids in sports, so I apologize. I will not put myself on video. I am actually calling because I'm part of, or at least I'm a parent of a child on the MAC Swim Club, and I was part of the MACPAC meeting a couple weeks ago. And I was a little caught off guard when there was a push to vote on a resolution to move forward on whether we would keep the McMinnville library where it is or move it. And I believe that this was not transparent in that it was not listed on the item that motion was going to be pushed. It wasn't listed, on the agenda. And then it was a vote to go forward on it. There was some deliberation about it. They voted on it. And then here we have a new resolution in the city council meeting wanting to expand the contract to an additional $50,000 to incorporate a new additional possible library off of the current camp where it's currently located, et cetera. My concern is that meeting was not made public, meaning it was public, I should clarify. Public comment was very clearly delineated or noted that was not going to be made available. So nobody that attended that meeting were allowed to give public comment or participate in whether they thought that was a good idea or not. Separately, it wasn't on the agenda. And then third of all, I reached out to Jeff Towery and CC'd Susan Muir and the city attorney asking them for what is the protocol for MACPAC and what is the transparency on decisions that are made on MACPAC and how are public supposed to be involved in that if public comment is being excluded. So I'm bringing this up because there is a resolution tonight I want to bring it up before the resolution is voted on, that I believe that that last meeting was not as transparent as it can be. And I also believe the public was not notified that they were making in my mind, a pretty serious decision, specifically with planning and even costs from citizens that are going to pay for that. And the citizens should know about it. So I'm just mainly wanting to just highlight that I believe that last meeting could do better on inviting public participation and making sure that the public knew what was being voted. And I'd like to make sure that before any resolution is passed, that at least the city councilors know that the decision before them was not done with full transparency at the prior meeting. And this is from me as a parent with a child on the McMinnville Swim Club, and that's me not as a city councilor. So I just wanted to make sure I made that clear, and I hope that that gets brought up during the resolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brittany. Claudia, any other?
That was it, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for the public comment this evening. That takes us to our next item of business this evening, and that is a presentation from McMinnville Economic Development Partnership, MEDP, and their annual update. And so I'll call on the Executive Director of MEDP, Scott Cooper. So Scott, I see you're on the line. I see Taylor's on the line. Welcome you too.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm going to share my screen here, I think. All right, I think it's shared. Everybody's at Mayor, am I all right?
You're in good shape, Scott.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. It's amazing how fast this time goes, but I wanted to give you kind of our fiscal year in review and a little bit of information looking forward. Our strategic goals remain the same. Our mission remains the same. I'll not read those to you, but business retention and expansion will certainly drive our programming and will drive all of our strategic goals. Our business retention and expansion efforts led to over 100 connections this year with our manufacturers and traded sector companies. Nearly 300 meetings with our resource partners in McMinnville, Yamhill County, the region, and the state. We worked with local manufacturers who pivoted to produce PPE to make sure they were included with statewide efforts, and worked with a regional partner to build a PPE database of what was available and how it could be obtained. We worked with our partners at the Stable Table, which is Visit McMinnville, Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Association, and the city to access a grant program for McMinnville businesses. And we worked with regional partners to bring additional emergency grant funding to McMinnville and the region, which I think to this point is over $2 million. Our McMinnville Works internship program, we had 9 host companies this year, 14 interns at those businesses, and provided 8 professional development workshops for those students. Business attraction efforts continued on throughout the year, which was a pleasant surprise, I would say, gauging how the spring started. But we were able to generate about 26 leads or interested parties in locating their business to McMinnville. Most of those remain active or are at various stages moving through the pipeline. We successfully sought approval for the expansion of the urban renewal area to cover additional commercial and industrial properties. And we produced new available industrial sites videos to be used on our website, and what is going to be the norm for a little while, virtual site tours. Our innovation development strategy dealt with entrepreneurship and business startups. We ran multiple programs throughout the year, including the inaugural 3-day startup, intensive 3-day startup boot camp. We awarded 3 startup companies a series of services that assisted them with their business ideas and helped make them a reality. The 3 winners were Hello Care, customizable in-home care business, Sustainable Rituals, a bulk refill shop for household essentials and personal care products, and Jamii Coffee. That's a coffee company empowering Kenyan coffee farmers to sell locally. Some business highlights around town. Despite the adversity this year, certainly brought to our business community, we have seen new activity. It speaks to the diversity of our economy and the planning and concentrated efforts over the last 50 years. A small sampling, we had commercial projects like First Federal's brand new 32,000 square foot headquarters, Falcon Suites new office complex between Adams and Baker, redevelopment of commercial buildings throughout downtown. Organic Valley had a sizable forgivable loan with Business Oregon when they went through expansion process here in McMinnville a couple of years ago, and they had a sizable amount of that forgiven because they met and surpassed their growth projections, and that is jobs. Northwest UAV partnering with Hearth Engines to further solidify this region as a major player in the UAV industry, and certainly the purchase of Evergreen Museum properties. Around the industrial district, it's been busy with new projects as well. The construction of about 18,000 square feet of industrial condos on Coleman Court. Red Hills Distribution added 25,000 square feet for wine storage and labeling operation. S&S Electrical Contracting purchased the former MD Advancements building on Alpha in the industrial park. Cardaway Concrete purchased a powder coating company and relocated it to their facility for their trailers and mixers. And Betty Lou's will have a larger role in the district as they focus on their name brand products. In March and April, we saw our manufacturing community looking to see what they could do and how they might be able to pivot. And we had several that were able to pivot to produce and provide much needed PPE to area businesses, hospitals, and schools. They produced anything from tubing for ventilators, masks, face shields, and including UVC technologies. This pivot aided in needed equipment, certainly for the public and for the business community, but it also kept people employed. Some of our highlights in MEDP. Our works and career-bound programs continued, although I'll tell you, when we started running these and kicking it off in the spring, we weren't sure we were going to be able to do it. We kind of reached out to the state and other programs, and we had conversations about best practices and how we might be able to pull this off. And in January and February, this looked like it was going to be our largest year, both with host sites, available positions, and applicants. But ultimately, we're very proud of this cohort and our staff to move forward through what was a difficult summer, but it turned out to be a pretty successful year for that program. Two years ago, with help from the city, MEDP received a grant from the Oregon Community Foundation and the Ford Family Foundation to expand an internship program like our Works program, but for rural communities in the state of Oregon. The success of this program has sparked 14 other similar programs throughout the state. In August, we submitted our final report to the foundations to close out the grant, and we met and exceeded all goals, and we were encouraged to keep the foundations in mind for future efforts. So that's good, a good opportunity for us moving forward with that programming. Launch Mid-Valley, that's a collaborative effort MEDP has invested in to assist entrepreneurial programming. We work together to bring experts and entrepreneurs together to grow new small businesses and nurture their ideas and help make them a reality. Together, we've held pub talks, we've started a coffee club for startups, and as I mentioned before, we held jointly the 3-day startup boot camp. And also, all of those top 3 businesses that came out of that boot camp program, they've all started or expanded their business. And those were Healthcare, Sustainable Rituals, and Jamii Coffee. Several others throughout that program we're working through and will be launching as well soon. Maybe our favorite thing to do is to tell the story of McMinnville and McMinnville business and industry. We do this at every opportunity through our social media, our traditional media outlets, Spark, which is our monthly newsletter, and regular blog postings as well. Our social media outlets continue to grow, and we had double-digit percentage growth over last year. Typically, in October, it's kind of our annual meeting time, and it's when we get to showcase McMinnville businesses and individuals and celebrate their best practices. We've been doing this since 2007. This year's forum took a little bit different look, and we did personal deliveries and locations and handed the award and did a small presentation there. But the good news is that we never seem to run out of businesses or awards to give. This year's awards went to RP Advanced Mobile Systems. They won the McMinnville Maker Award. They are a tactical ATV, UTV builder that expanded and pivoted to manufacture PPE equipment and are continuing to do so. Our workforce partner of the year is the Sweet Mom organization. They are a nonprofit aiding other nonprofits by leveraging e-commerce. Cami Nyquist and her team had a need for 6 interns this summer, kept them all busy and hired a couple of them permanently. Our startup of the year, Sustainable Rituals. Our Tech Terroir Award went to Buildable. They are a custom software company that redeveloped the downtown building and grew their staff and business offerings. The board partner of the year went to McMinnville Downtown Association and the city for their joint efforts to create and streamline the Dine Outside on 3rd Street program. So, looking to the year ahead. Well, we're only 27 days into the new year for us, but we're excited about how October's going. It's been a busy month, and we look to continue and grow the momentum. We'll have more details on these coming soon, but some highlights. Erin Hansen Gallery. She is a world-renowned impressionist. She's moving her headquarters from San Diego to McMinnville. She will be taking up 18,000 square feet in the industrial park to have kind of a multi-use facility that'll do a little bit of manufacturing, some artists, some retail. It'll kind of be all-encompassing for them. Unique Wire is a digital forensics firm. They're occupying about 10,000 square feet space in downtown. Good jobs, and nice to have those in the downtown area as well. Colvin Court extension, about 440 feet that we did a ribbon cutting on last week. It will open up additional access to industrial properties. And the big key with that is that project was a catalyst for Castile Bottling's new 20,000 square foot facility in the industrial park. We do have a few other announcements coming soon. We look forward to sharing those and certainly, like I said, continuing the momentum. Well, I'd be remiss without thanking our staff. Taylor Brisbane is our communications coordinator, and Heather Hadley Blank, our program manager. Without the wonderful staff that I have, none of this stuff would ever get done and accomplished. They keep us organized, they keep me organized, and keep everything on track and moving forward. And certainly, I want to thank the city, mayor, council, Jeff Towery, and staff. I think we have a tremendous relationship, and I've, in my 18 months here, never had a bad experience working with anybody. It's always been a very positive effort, and I thank you very much for your continued support and look forward to what lies ahead. Mayor, thank you so much for the time. I very much appreciate it.
Scott, why don't we see if we have any questions from the council for you? We'll open it up.
I do, Mr. Mayor. I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Remy.
Sorry, this is a little indulgent, but there was a business you talked about moving here in the year ahead, opening up an 18,000 square foot facility, and my hound dog barked very loudly right when you said who it was. And I'd love to know.
She's an Erin Hansen Gallery. It's a impressionist artist, pretty widely known.
Wonderful.
My impressionist art is not on a high caliber, so I had to look all that up as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Zach?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Cooper, Ms. Brisbane, for your excellent, thrilling presentation, as always. Looks like a comfy chair. A couple questions. One, think you've had enough time, Scott, to kind of get your feet under you here and have a good feel. I guess I have two questions. One is sort of a specific and one is a little more esoteric. The specific one would be sort of when you get calls out of the blue about, I've been reading a lot about McMinnville and I want to move my business there. What is your, top two or top three sort of stumbling block to success, to connecting those two? Not necessarily, they ended up picking somewhere else, but it was sort of, I ran into this real and finite issue that came up and sort of what are one or two of those things, and whether it's how specific that is, it's an interesting data point I think would be helpful. And obviously coming from the city, is if it's a more city specific related item, what could we help with in those? And second, I think as you forecast both our recovery from COVID as well as just the future of small business in McMinnville, what keeps you up at night? What's the big thing out there? What are you worried about? Yeah, what keeps you up at night when you think about bringing small business and adventurous opportunities to the city of McMinnville for future entrepreneurs?
That's both great questions, Councilor Gary. I appreciate that. I slept like a baby until I started working here. I'm kidding.
What is that John Dillinger always said? Coffee keeps me up.
No, that's not because there's bad issues. It's just because it's busy. There's so much to do, and there's so many programs, there's so many opportunities, there are so many economic vitality organizations within McMinnville that always have things going on, and the problem is staying focused on our mission and our path, because it's so easy to get diverted to other cool projects and other cool things and to get involved, and saying no is difficult. But that's the one thing that is difficult, but it's not for the bad reasons by any means, but it's about moving things forward. Certainly like everybody, I have concerns over the recovery for the next several months, especially in the climate that we live in, and the opportunities that kind of shift focus on the abilities and making sure that we're supporting business. That has a concern. And we've done a phenomenal job throughout the summer and fall, and the creativity, again, of these economic vitality organizations and the stable table, and working all those partners together. I have a lot of faith in the ability to move things forward and to be resilient, and to talk about resiliency and recovery. But it's a conscious effort. We have to be diligent every single day and at all points in time to make sure we're efforting to help and to assist and do all that we can, and to make it easier on them. And that includes well beyond this city to make that happen. It's a regional effort, it's a countywide effort, it's a statewide effort. So those things still, I think about a lot. Barriers, that's, it depends who you talk to. If you're talking to site selectors and C-level executives, they tend to focus a little bit more on incentives and assistance programs to locate. But that's a reality, and it's a difficult thing, and not just for McMinnville there either, but more things that we can look at and more things that we can offer. They don't have to be big things either. They don't have to be, the pots of money that doesn't handle it. How do we ease the access? How do we ease it with zoning and relationships? But that largely starts on our front lines, making those introductions. And I think that MEDP has done a good job of that historically, and I hope we're continuing to do that. The other thing is that we want to make sure of is labor is always going to be, and we're okay there. It's not. It can always be a little bit better, but we want to make sure we're doing the things with workforce development, access, and that's infrastructure, roads in and out of McMinnville, and that's a key and really important as well. And available sites, good sites. Some things we can't do anything about. We get a lot of rail sites of interest here. We don't have a lot of rail sites available, but otherwise, I think we do get a lot of activity. We get a lot of interest, and that's because of McMinnville's quality of life and the perception that is out there about McMinnville.
How would you say our barriers compare to others? I'm pretty myopic. You have more of a worldly view than I do. How would you say ours compare?
They're similar. I think that we're seeing a shift and a change in those things that make McMinnville even more desirable in some ways. I think that time will tell how we see that formulate into urban areas and some of the out migration of those areas, looking for close proximity, looking for urban amenities, but not the urban population. And to have a little more space and to be a little more sprawled out, safety and security. You were starting to see that pattern. I was at an online International Economic Development Conference last week, and there was a lot of talk from site selectors about that they're starting to see that becoming not just a reaction, but a new formula for companies and as well as people, which are your workforce, starting to kind of look outside of urban areas.
Another follow-up, if I may. You talked about infrastructure. Where do you see at McMinnville? Where do you see the importance on data and data, internet access as far as an infrastructure piece of that puzzle in McMinnville? And how are we doing? And kind of similar style of question: how are we doing? How are we doing compared to others? What could we be doing better? Or what importance do you place on that as young entrepreneurs start up and need more of that tech piece to get them going? I mean, it's like you're either located near the ocean or you're not. Sorry, you can help how your internet is, or you can't. So, how do you see tech as an infrastructure piece in your success?
It's important. Even it's not just it's not tech startups. It's not entrepreneurs. I mean, look at us right now. This is happening everywhere in McMinnville. There are a lot of people working from home. McMinnville is still a heavy manufacturing community, so there's a lot of people who cannot work from home. But if we want to continue to diversify, that's going to be extremely important. And as part of infrastructure is obviously not just roads, water and sewer. It's that access to fiber and quality access, and it's access for learning, it's access for jobs, it's access for communication. Hugely important. Maybe more so now than some of those others that used to be at the top of the list, just because we're forced to be less mobile.
Thanks for your time answering my questions. Good update. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Sorry.
May I ask another question, kind of leading off Zach's questions?
Go ahead, Remy, and then Wendy after Remy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When you mentioned infrastructure and attracting diverse businesses, and I'm wondering what more, or kind of in a similar vein of Zach's question in terms of what the needs are to, what does our airport need to become a bigger and more major player in attracting an industry, which could be any number of industries, right? Shipping or so on and so forth. But what is our what do we need at the airport to really move us to that next level of being able to bring a large employer to McMinnville that is interested in that asset?
Councilor Drabkin, I think that, that's, I don't want to get in trouble with anybody out there, but there are, I had a conversation 18 months ago with Heather Richards in the planning department about ideas and thoughts about an underutilized area, and coming from where I came from, seeing an opportunity for an innovation district, an innovation center, an innovation complex based around the airport, which in my mind, I can see it. It's not an airport, it's an air park. And how can we utilize that? We have space, we have opportunity. And how can we utilize that to grow into an economic center? And I think that we've got new and solid partners now with Evergreen and the new ownership there, and the focus that they are putting on ag and tech innovation can really be a catalyst for ag and tech innovation in that area. Like-minded people like to be around that kind of stuff. So the more you can build small and grow into that, you can start creating office space and hangar space in one, an opportunity for people to access in and out of the airport easily, so they would not have to land at the airport and get in a car and then drive somewhere else to their offices. It would give them an opportunity to have immediate access. It's how the air park where I came from grew over quite a period of time. But it's also how the innovation center grew. So the combination of the two is real. And having the opportunity just to have space, Councilor, is, I think, the best asset we can have. It's marketing and promoting that. And it's something that I'm certainly, and MEDP are certainly going to be kind of working and focusing on in the coming year to lay out and working with city staff. How do we plan and how do we move forward?
Thank you.
Thank you, Remy. Wendy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Scott, thank you so much for the presentation, and also our appreciation to you and your team with all the great work you've done considering these unprecedented times. I know it has been a challenge to move forward and be creative during this time. It sounds like some great work has been done. Can you address, I know we did with the strategic planning, we did some really deep work on economic development. We developed a plan with 8 goals in it. Can you talk about how you utilize that work in guiding the work that you guys do at MEDP?
I had the good fortune of timing coming to McMinnville. That plan, I think, was approved on or around the month that I moved here and started working at MEDP. So I didn't do the work on it. Our organization did a lot of work. I was involved in that process. So it was easy, as my board said, Scott, take 6 months, get to know the community, know the people, talk to everybody, talk to the businesses, meet as many people as you can. At the end of 6 months, let's come up with a plan and move forward. So it was relatively easy to utilize the new strategic plan in formulating our plan. They kind of need to run, obviously, to be mutually effective, kind of on linear tracks, kind of side by side. So it's easy to, I think that, our largest focus needs to be on our existing businesses and making sure that they are growing and successful in our community, but looking for new opportunity to continue to diversify. And I think that our plan represents the strategic plan fairly well.
And what, how do you guys incorporate that in? Do you look at the strategic plan when you're doing goal setting, or how do you make sure that integration is happening with what your objectives are? Can you explain what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. It does. At the last retreat we had, which was again just before I arrived, the strategic plan was the center point of our retreat. We've got one that we're hoping to get out. We've had some delays because of this past summer, but we'll have one hopefully this fall and winter that it will revolve much around that as well, and utilizing the plan to kind of formulate ours and making sure, as we always want to do every year, revisit our plan to make sure it stays on track and we're doing what we want to be doing with the city's objectives and the community's objectives really on the strategic plan. So we will continue to utilize that document as we frame our work.
Great. And then one more question. Do you set specific goals that are like measurable goals that you evaluate at the end of the year to say, you have big projects going on, but say we want to reach these benchmarks this year? I know Tectoire had like a certain, growth in that industry that was the goal in a certain amount of time. Are you guys tracking in that way at this time?
Yeah, I think that what you're speaking to, I think there was a 1,500 in 15. Right. That was the 1,500 new jobs in 15 years, which was part of the strategic plan, timing wise anyway. So yeah, absolutely, we've, when I came up with our plan for last year and we put it forward, it was a little bit more general, and part of that was familiarity. But we do track, as I mentioned at the top of my presentation, we do track the work that we do, job creation and outreach and visitations and all of those things. And we will, at our planning retreat, we will set more specific goals. We will reevaluate and revisit those goals like 1,515. How are we doing? What's the timeline of that? So yes, the answer to your question is yes, we will.
Awesome. Okay, just so you know, I would love to see that, to be able to gauge where we are in relation to what we thought we would do and then why, right? So for this year, we might have seen if you had set targets to accomplish certain things that we fell short because you pivot, right? Because of COVID-19, but that is such good data for us to know what's happening in the community, to see where we're missing marks and why. So, and where we're hitting as well, of course, and exceeding. That's great too. So anyway, thank you so much for your work. I really appreciate all that you and your team are doing in our community, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you.
Scott, I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead, Kelly. There we go. Go ahead, Kelly.
All right. As part of the strategic economic plan, I know I brought up the fact that we have this fiber optic backbone that both the city and the school district and maybe one other has like 12 strands in, but nobody else pretty much uses it. And I talked with John Dietz recently, and he was talking that probably when we actually do switch to this small cell type of technology, because of the density that it can go through these fiber optic channels, that the small cell will support more of that density. But I'm just wondering, is this a regular conversation with you folks? It sounds like it might happen within the next 5 years, so I was just kind of curious.
Councilor Mickey, it will be certainly because of what we've been. I think that what has happened due to the pandemic is it's forced timelines forward drastically in those areas. So yes, as we talk, as I mentioned earlier, as we talk infrastructure, the ability to provide high speed and fiber and those things to our community is vital. If anytime I have a conversation with any of our tech companies, it's the first thing that's mentioned, how important and how vital that is for our community, and the conversation that we must have, and we must build out those networks and have those capabilities, not just for them, certainly, but for our residents and for our other businesses that it's so important for. So it's moved up the timeline, and it's a conversation that we will be having consistently moving forward, definitely.
Well, that's good to hear. I did get a few complaints as I was wandering around talking to various people trying to get my signs in their yards. We'd like to be able to use that, and from business people mostly. But any progress in that area would be greatly appreciated.
Sounds like a perfect stable table topic.
And knowing that.
Thank you for a great report.
And Kelly, knowing that is managed and owned by Mac Water and Light, so they need to be a real partner there. And
Yeah, I know. That's why I went and talked to John Dietz.
Any other questions for Scott? Well, thank you, Scott. You and I and your board have an opportunity to meet on a monthly basis, and I so much appreciate the partnership that exists between the city and Mac Water and Light and MIP and the chamber. You know, in this time period, many would say that there's just not economic business and development happening, and we know that's not true. There are many that are well capitalized that can take advantage of opportunity, and we're positioned very well in our community with the backbone of our water and electric and the costs that are associated there, MIP and their forethought in developing and having shovel-ready land out in the industrial park. We've got so many things that are to our advantage, and we talk about the successes that you have by bringing businesses here, but there's many that we're working on. It doesn't work out, but there's just a lot of activity, as you and I know. So again, thank you, and Taylor, thank you, and Heather's not with us tonight, but thank all of you for the fine work that you're doing and the leadership role that you play regionally as a economic development group. As I talk throughout the region in Polk and Marion County, we're seen as having it together when it comes to economic development. So again, thank you, and thank you for your report. We always appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, that now takes us to advice and information this evening. And so we'll go ahead and have reports from councilors on committee and board assignments. And I will go around as you come up on my screen. Remy, would you start?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So tomorrow, the McMinnville Affordable Housing Task Force meets, and what I'd really like to report or say to the community is that we have a number of openings, and we're a very active committee. We do a lot, and having those seats filled is very important for us. And so we have, unfortunately, our youth representative has resigned, so we have that, but we also have an opportunity for a member of the development community to join the McMinnville Affordable Housing Task Force. And that's so vitally important that having that voice, we have 2 seats on the task force for the development community. And we really would love to have representation there. Zach, do you have a question?
Yeah, this is coming from my experience as a sort of a one-off builder and shun the label of developer. You're looking for anyone that builds in the community or that sort of large-scale developments and versus builders. Do you understand the difference in my question?
I think they prefer a large scale, but there aren't that many of them around.
I mean, we really want somebody that has a local eye as the most important, I think, aspect. And we don't have a criteria that has to be met in terms of how much one would have had to have built or plans to build, et cetera. But having a local eye would be great. And of course, somebody that is doing more development is beneficial for the committee.
Sure, in touch with the housing markets and the constraints. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So please tune in at 10 tomorrow for our, well, I guess it'll be recorded and then sent out, but no, anybody can join. Yeah, it's a Zoom meeting. Anybody can join. So please join in tomorrow for that, and please do look at our openings. We would love to get the committee reconstituted as quickly as possible.
I think we need a banker too, right, Remy?
Right, yes. Or finance, banker or finance.
Or finance, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Remy. Let's go over to Zach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, Landscape Review Committee was pretty full. Had a subdivision review for Valley's Edge, car dealer, new car dealer over on Baker Street, 99W. Landscape for McDonald's, the one over by the old theater. It's adding a second drive-through lane for anyone excited about drive-through lanes. New building at or near Davison had some landscape stuff come back to it, and there was a tree removal. So bunch of stuff going through there, which is good. Keep those guys active. McMinnville Community Media, no report since last time. And then Climate Friendly and Equitable Communities Rule-Making Advisory Council had our initial meeting where we just sort of went over charge and ground rules. So nothing crazy to report other than that's underway. It should be pretty cool. And then last, MacPac had, my update was really no meeting since last council meeting. So we met at the first Thursday, but I'm happy to provide a little context. The staff and I, we've been talking just sort of next steps on finishing up the year with agenda, and actually a good time to sort of remind ourselves and the MacPac sort of how we got here as almost a third of the time check-in. And I know I've been providing you guys monthly updates, but just a reminder that sort of even longer ago, this council engaged in a facility study. And because of that facility study, we had a couple of red letter in the red buildings that we wanted to, we really got to drastically address these. And then we have sort of a yellow and then a bunch of others as far as importance. And some of those in the red were the pool, the community center, and we formed the MacPac from sort of the discussions around the facility study. And in the formation of the MacPac, we discussed looking at, I think its official charge was to look at building one building that can contain the offerings of the pool and the community center, whatever that looks like. And we added in that discussion, explore the opportunity of a branch or satellite location of the public library. It was sort of not discussed a bunch other than at that council meeting, and was added to the MacPac's charge. So the MacPac was formed with a robust community engagement process to represent the community in that engagement and in that discussion. So we brought together we pioneered a new method for soliciting public engagement, and we had them fill out. I mean, I had people telling me I didn't know it was going to be a job resume they had to fill out to be there, but I mean, it was a really great in-depth way to make sure we were diversely representing our community. I think we had 40 applicants to join that committee, and we have 19 general public people and myself as the liaison to that. Mayor joins every now on as public. Council President Mackey's been there, as well as members of the staff and members of consultant teams to help us through that. So just a reminder that, the official charge of that MacPac is our community engagement in the study of the facilities. And that's all a subcommittee, of us exploring and coming back, exploring the end result of that very specific charge we gave them and bringing things back. And as we all know, as groups of, 20 people with staff roll through really nuanced and layered and sort of needle in a haystack things of talking about buildings. What does a building look like? What's going in it? Where could we put it? Oh, that changes how we look at it. What do we need? Oh, well, we're COVID now. How does the community want the future to look like? It's really tough to work through those. And so moving as a group, building consensus and coming up with things. The meeting most recently talked about, addressing finally that dangling hanging chad, topical, hanging chad of the library. And we just kind of needed to draw a circle around that and said, hey, listen, part of the charge was talking about the library. Do we want to explore in this new facility, including a branch, relocating, moving, remodeling? And the decision that we made as consensus of that group was, no, the library is great where it is. It needs work. It's not perfect. We can improve a lot of the processes there. But we don't need to move it to the new facility. We don't need to do anything other than look at the operations footprint and improve that process. So that group is moving forward with that recommendation, and we got to it through the most efficient and consensus building way we could. And I think, again, all that is going to come back to us in a myriad different ways so we can free up staff to do things and move things forward without waiting the long process of the jurisdiction as it can take. Instead of waiting to the end of the 18 months that we charge MacPac with to come back with that, we can break things off and move things forward. So I know that's a little bit longer, but I felt it appropriate to add that to my report tonight. So if anyone has any questions about, any other councilors, any questions about what we're doing on MacPac specifically, I'm happy to answer. I know Susan has, her staff update coming to us later if she wants to chime in with anything that I missed or wants to add to. She's more than welcome to, as well as on your agenda tonight, we do have something coming to you from staff related to looking at the library, and I'm happy to help that discussion move along there. So other than that, thank you very much.
I have a question, Zach.
Go ahead.
About MacPac. Was the meeting agenda and packet circulated ahead of the MacPac meeting?
MacPac has a designated slot on our website, and it went out at least a week ahead of time. And right in the staff report is sort of a wonderful summarization that I may have culled some of my talking points from. Page 10 of the staff report posted to, McMinnville, Oregon.gov under MacPac. It was right there in the staff report.
So yeah, I'm looking at the staff report. Sorry to interrupt, Zach.
No.
I just want to clarify. Jenny's staff report includes a discussion about the library location, preliminary thoughts, subcommittee formation. So those were actually included in the agenda ahead of time as talking points, right?
That went a week out before the meeting,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks for that information.
And again, our public engagement is the 19-member group that engages in the discussion.
No, I get that. I was trying to understand whether you were, it seemed like it was being suggested that the public meetings law was being violated, but it seems to me that
it's pretty clear.
An agenda was there and it was clearly a topic on the agenda. I just wanted to clarify that for my own understanding.
Yep. And then just adding to that, because you made me think of it, that that 19-member committee is our discussion portion of the community. And those meetings are totally viewable to anyone of the public. It is not our intent to engage the public on that. We went through that public engagement process to get the 19 people that would have the discussion to diversely represent it. So.
Thank you, Zach. Let's move over to Wendy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have not had a meeting for MURAC since our last meeting. It's the first Wednesday of every month. So I should have a report at our next council meeting.
Thank you, Wendy. Let's go to Kelly.
Reporting briefly on two committees, Visit McMinnville. We had an interesting discussion. They are moving ahead with their downtown winter wonderland type of theme, and they have, I think everybody received an email showing some of the design that they're planning to use. The idea is to convey winter without necessarily conveying all the holiday portions of it. So they can use this format for a number of years to come. They're very busy in helping the downtown and the city of McMinnville with branding. And some of the things they're looking at for downtown is a kiosk area. They're going to start with one of the kiosks down on 3rd Street. Where we used to have the benches, they're going to put a kiosk with a little thing that will hold a lighted area that will hold sort of like in front of Gallery Theater, I think, that will hold information about where to go in town and maybe current events, things like that. So that's an exciting thing, and they're likely be doing that this year, so be looking for that. The other thing is murals. They want to do at least 1 or 2 murals a year, and this will be helped out by our McMinnville Public Arts Committee and the Oregon Cultural Trust. So that's an exciting thing to look forward to, too. They have a couple of different ideas, one of them being a geometric quilt design that sounds very pretty. So another thing to be looking for that this McMinnville is very involved in. On YCAP, I went through 2 meetings with them today, and I just kind of wanted to point out to you that by year end, YCAP will have put out an additional, that's over and above what they would normally put out by their budget, 3.1 to 3.2 million by the end of this year through PPP loans and other financial aid that they have received. So that's amazing. And the thing is, they really have not increased their compensation budget at all. So the same people that were doing the work before are doing all this work now, and they're working nonstop almost over there. Let's see. And then in the housing stabilization, they're still working the moteling program. They now have funding through April of 2021, which is exciting. 68% positive permanent housing for most of these folks. And it's 100% for the medically fragile. So that is an important thing to keep in mind. So that's what I have for my two committees.
Thank you, Kelly. Let's move over to Adam.
Good evening. We haven't had a YCOM meeting. We're slated for one the second Thursday of November. Our airport commission meeting will be moved from this coming Tuesday due to being the election to Thursday the 5th at 6:30. And that's a Zoom meeting as well as some limited capacity at Civic Hall. So if you need the Zoom link for that, reach out to me. I'll be sure to get it to you. We had our first real in-depth minimum standards discussion last week on the 22nd, and that went well. I think we moved at a natural pace for the group and came to some understanding, and all took some homework home to look at some other surrounding airports, Bend, Aurora, Independence, Hillsborough, and kind of figure out what the best fit is for McMinnville. And other than that, we got two openings on the airport commission. Deadline is 5 p.m. November 6th to get your application into Claudia. Both of those openings are for our city resident seats. So you do need to be a resident of the city, but it doesn't matter what ward you live in, as long as you are a resident in the city. We also have two at-large spots, but those aren't open right now. So if you're a resident of the city and you have interest in the airport commission, there is a application on McMinnville, Oregon.gov website, and get that into Claudia so we can get you through the process and get you on the airport commission.
Thank you, Adam. Let's go down to Sal.
Thank you, Mayor. Council of Governments, we had 6 hours of job interviews with prospective executive directors. We've narrowed that down to 3, and they will be, we're scheduling the interviews, the final interviews with those folks. As part of that, we're going to be taking those people around to some of the different cities in the region, and there may be an opportunity for the new applicants to meet with staff and elected officials here in McMinnville. This is one of the places that they were wanting folks to come and visit because of our high quality of life and livability here, obviously. So that's my report. Yeah, I'll get with Jeff to coordinate times with that, or Renata Wakely will reach out to him.
Thank you, Sal. I'll go ahead and do a brief report. The Newburgh-Dundee Bypass Committee, we have met, and we have full funding for phase 2 for design and for right-of-way. We are continuing down the path of looking very aggressively at phase 3, which would be from Dundee to Dayton. We've had a number of meetings with the mayors of Newburgh, Dundee, myself, Dave Hogelberg, and now we're going to reach out to the county in coordinating our efforts from that perspective. We had an exciting opportunity with the budget committee. We had 9 phenomenal applicants for 2 openings on that, and it was so hard that we had to do some additional interviewing, but we have selected 2 individuals to serve on our budget committee, and we will have that to you in our first council meeting in November. This Thursday afternoon, I will have the opportunity to have our second meeting with ODOT as it relates to the West Side Road truck route, diverting a truck route or trucks off of 47 down West Side Road. And we're not changing our position. It's just not a good thing for McMinnville at all, but we'll have that meeting this coming Thursday evening. Two other things. Again, we had our report with MEDP this evening, but again, what a joy it was to receive on behalf of the city the partnershiping award with MDA and the city in the MAC Dine Out. And if we were together, I would show you the fabulous award that we received. It was just spectacular. And then the last thing is we are going to be meeting in a week for MWAC, which would be the Mid-Willamette Valley Advisory Commission on Transportation, and we're having a big discussion as it relates to the STIP, which is the State Transportation Improvement Plan, and we're really trying to get what is called the enhanced version of that. And Jeff has our award there from MEDP. Look how nice that is. And so I will be recognizing that we go with the enhanced program with the STIP, which gives us a little more money to finish projects like the Newburgh-Dundee bypass, the Donald-Aurora interchange, and some things on Highway 22 down by Recreal that have been really difficult places with lots of accidents. Okay, let's go around and have reporting from staff. I'm going to start with Amanda first.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Wanted to let you know that at the next council meeting on November 10th, I may or may not be virtually present, but I have already lined up Spencer Parsons, who is the attorney that we've retained to help with the UGB work. He's on deck just in case I'm not able to attend. But hopefully everything will work out and I'll be there.
Thank you, Amanda. Let's go over to Susan.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Susan Muir, the Parks and Rec Director. Councilor Geary covered MacPac really well. I just want to mention one other thing. Because of your council public hearings on the UGB, we are moving the December 3rd MacPac meeting, which normally happens on the first Thursday, to December 10th. And we will be posting the agenda and the staff report a week ahead of time. And then I wanted to just mention, if anybody needs something fun to do on Halloween, the city staff will be down at Joe Dancer Park from 2 to 5 o'clock, having a safe and fun Halloween event for our community. For anybody that's planning on coming, make sure you enter off of Riverside and Marsh Lane. And if anybody wants to help, we have a number of businesses and volunteers that are really helping put this event on, and we're really looking forward to hopefully a great turnout for Halloween. So hope to see you all down there.
Thank you, Susan, for taking that.
Can I clarify something, Mayor? Individuals can volunteer to help. It's not just a businesses.
We are soliciting for businesses, but if anybody on the council wants to participate, just shoot either me or Ann Lane an email, and we'll make sure and get you guys some details about that. You
can do that, Zach, as a member of the city committee.
I was thinking getting Hiram up on the ladder truck and doing food down from the ladder truck.
Okay. Kylie.
Thank you. So just a brief update on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee. I got a crash course in creating web forms this week. So I've been making that application, and it's a little more labor intensive than I had planned on. So it is just about ready to go live. I was just working on it before I walked in here. That should go up here shortly. There's also a new web page for that committee. Once that link is live, I will send it to all the councilors so that you can all share this with your contacts. I'll also have a little email script that you can use to send that out if you'd like to use that. We'll be looking for applicants for the committee. We're also going to be looking for folks who would be great applicants but may not be able to commit to being part of that committee. but they might want to help us evaluate our potential committee members. So we're looking for people to help evaluate and to be on the committee as well. So watch your inboxes for that. I'll be sending it hopefully tomorrow morning, and then we'll get this thing rolling.
Thank you, Kylie. Let's go over to Scott Burke.
Nothing for the council tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Claudia.
Nothing for council and mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny.
Nothing to add, but thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Jennifer.
Yeah, I would like to give you guys the heads up. We have had the auditors doing final testing for fiscal 20 financial activities the last 2 weeks, and we'll have an exit conference tomorrow. But we do know at this point that we will have to put in for an extension. And the reason why is we are going through a federal single audit because we have rung that compliance bell this year. And our dominant program is the CARES Act funding. And the federal government has not yet issued to auditors how they are supposed to test that funding. So that they won't have that in hand until December. So that's just going to delay the timing of issuing our financial statements. It's unfortunate, but everyone is very busy, including the federal government, right, during this COVID activities. So.
Thank you, Jennifer. Chief Scales, Matt, are you still in the Civic Hall? Anything to report?
Yeah, just some quick updates. I don't think I've touched on any of the promotions that we've announced within the last probably 2 sessions. Sergeant Newhouse, Eric Newhouse, was promoted to sergeant from corporal. You had already honored Corporal Rudolph tonight, but he was promoted to corporal last week. Michelle Nass, who was our part-time office specialist, was moved into a full-time records position. We onboarded a part-time evidence tech position that had been vacant for about 6 months. And then obviously we had brought on Rebecca Parker, who had worked for the Port of Portland Police Department. Quick update, the EOC, there was a configuration, basically new equipment that was put in that was finished last week or 2 weeks ago. So the EOC is up and running, came in at a really good price. We worked with Kylie to enter into an agreement with more consultants for our ongoing DEI training. Our DEI training will start in December and go through December, January, and February with individual 2-hour training sessions each month that officers and all our staff, for that matter, will be attending. But so lots of moving parts right now, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief. And Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Speaking of diversity, equity, and inclusion training, your mandatory training session is coming up on Thursday of this week from 10:30 to 12:30. You will be joined by some members of the executive team who are also able to make that training available for you. And the other thing I will touch base on, Wendy sort of forecast this a little bit in your level 10 meeting. We'll be working on a pro bono, which is Latin for no bono, contract for services with Wendy Stassens. She'll be helping us navigate through the level 10 process over the course of her first year off of the city council. And we'll be bringing back to you kind of a work plan and scope for that at an upcoming council meeting or through some sort of an information packet. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, that takes us to our consent agenda this evening. We have 4 items on that consent agenda, and I'd ask if any councilor would request to have an item moved from the consent agenda and heard at its regular place on our regular agenda. Is there anyone that would like to have anything removed? Not seeing anything, then I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Zach, seconded by Kelly, to approve the consent agenda as presented this evening. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by saying nay. The consent agenda this evening passes unanimously 6-0. That takes us to our one resolution this evening, Resolution 2020-61, a resolution of the City of McMinnville authorizing the city manager to execute a second amendment to the personal services agreement with Ballard and King and Associates LTD to continue the facility and recreation master plan and facility study project. And so we have our park and recreation manager, Ann Lane, to present to us. Ann, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate your time and consideration of Resolution 2020-61 this evening regarding continuation of work on the recreation master plan and feasibility study project. This is an important public project that the advisory committee, MacPac, will continue to work closely with the city in formulating ideas and recommendations to be taken out to the public and then ultimately back to City Council. This phase of the Recreation Master Plan project was funded through the fiscal year 2021 budget process. And at this time, we are requesting authorization to enter into a bridge contract for $50,000. This action requires council approval as the dollar amount for the overall consultant work done to date exceeds the threshold to administratively approve. And so we may continue the work of MacPac in an effort toward replacement of the existing community center and aquatic center. It is recommended that the council move to approve Resolution 2020-61 to amend the personal services agreement with Ballard King and Associates.
Thank you, Ann. We've had quite a little discussion on this already this evening through the discussion with MacPac. Any specific questions for Ann at this time?
Ann, this is Sal. I just had a couple of questions. This information's in the packet, but I just want to confirm my understanding. The amount that you're talking about allocating would take us to about half of the total amount that we've estimated allocating for this work. Is that correct?
Yes, for this phase of the project in this fiscal year.
And the total amount that we have budgeted is over 2 years, and basically it's $300,000. And the first year we spent about 150, and the next year we're spending about 150. Is that all consistent with what we had believed at the start of the project?
Yes, absolutely. This also, for this current fiscal year, includes approximately $50,000 to do a polling process of our community for this project.
Mm-hmm. So the money that we're allocating includes both the facilities and strategic planning, the review of the facilities, polling community members for their views on the project. There have been consistent public notices for all the MacPac meetings. Okay, I just wanted to confirm all of that. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct. Thanks, Sal.
Any other questions for Ann?
I don't have a specific question for Ann, but I have something to lob out if we're getting into discussion. So I don't know if you want to transition to that, Mayor, or if you want me to.
Oh no, we're questions and discussion. So go ahead.
I think the other part that we talked about, if you haven't gone through MacPac meetings and minutes, or sort of just tying all that loose in from our original charge to now, the other thing that we've talked about as part of this, looking at the library more specifically as part of that facilities discussion larger, and Ann, you can chime in too, or Susan or Jenny, as pieces of the library become more relevant. But part of that facilities discussion, as we look at sort of the box that is what one building can we build to house the pool and community center recreation services. The other part of that question, or the other questions those are going to ask are, okay, what are we going to do with those buildings? What are we going to do with the other buildings? What are we going to do with our administration? How can we really turn the crank on all of those other facilities that we addressed as having critical needs, or efficiencies we can gain in our administration as we look to endeavor to build new big buildings? The library is going to come into that in some way. As we look at that, it's downtown. We've got City Hall. Is there a potential to do some things at the library as we look at expanding the library, capital L services? The rest of that building could house other services in the city. So it's not necessarily just a library focused thing. It touches a lot more buckets in the city's facilities study that we're doing too. I don't know if I captured that well, Anne, or
yeah. And it's there's a lot of parts to this project, and we're trying to bring all of these pieces forward in unison, and they're all connected. So every decision impacts another piece of the project. So yes, you were right on.
And the team that has been assembled to help us with this, that we're adding on to with Ray, I think that the library specific architect to join for this specifically, but the pool expert we have on the team, all the experts we have on the team, that is a really dynamic, smart team that know exactly what they're talking about, that can walk through there and really quickly see and identify 27 things that we need to do. And so we're going to get a lot out of this.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
In terms of all of our critical needs we've identified.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sal, for your questions, and Zach for your clarification. Any other discussion that we need to have this evening? Seeing none, then we will consider Resolution 2020-61, a resolution of the City of McMinnville authorizing the city manager to execute a second amendment to the personal services agreement with Ballard King and Associates LTD to continue the facilities, the recreation master plan, and feasibility study. I will ask for a motion to approve Resolution 2020-61.
We'll second Zach's motion.
Okay. Moved by Zach and seconded by Sal. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Resolution 2020-61 passes unanimously 6-0. That concludes our City Council meeting this evening. We will be going into executive session, and we'll need to leave this Zoom session and go into our executive session. Thank you, all those that were council, staff, and those that were on the phone with us. Thanks.